put in place by Abraham Lincoln. We'll talk about that and more fun Capitol building facts while I sketch this little landmark. So let's just turn the page and get started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Monday morning. It's late. It's Memorial Day here in the United States. That is the day that we honor the soldiers that served in all branches of the military that passed away in the line of service, in the line of duty. And it might be fitting that we're doing an American landmark on that day. But I can't imagine the soldiers that passed away in the line of duty caring much about this particular little landmark. This is the Capitol building. Where Congress sits.
Joe can't space this.
Thanks for stopping by, Joe. Appreciate it. I really do. But on Mondays, I like to do a little thing where I pull a toy from the toy box, a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier, if you will, and I like to draw it and talk about it. And again, today's random object is the Capitol building. The Capitol building, built in, I believe, the 1820s originally. Wasn't finished. It couldn't have been the 1820s. Yeah, because the British burned it down in 1814. It had to be built long before that. The British burned it down in 1814, so it was built long before that, but it was finished. It wasn't finished until the 1860s when they put the new dome on it. Has a statue atop the dome of a robed figure wearing a helmet. It was originally supposed to be wearing there's a cone-shaped flop hat that the Romans used to represent freed, liberated slaves, and the Congress wanted to use that flop hat on that statue at the top to symbolize that they were free from British rule. But Jefferson Davis argued against it and wouldn't let it happen. And so they ended up with a statue with a helmet, a Roman helmet on it, on top of the building. And it's interesting because after that, Jefferson Davis then joined the Confederacy in seceding from the Union. And became the president of the Confederacy.
Rick's here. Pamela's here too. He's already started.
Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Pamela. Welcome, one and all. I'm focused on my perspective. I noticed the other day when I did the Lincoln Memorial that my perspective was way off. I could break out a ruler and I can make this a whole lot more accurate. But I noticed that my perspective was way off when I did the Lincoln Memorial. And I think the the biggest problem is that I've had way too many pencil marks and not enough anchor marks. But today, I can slow down a little bit. I don't have to work today because it is Memorial Day. I don't have to work today, so I can slow down a little bit and work out those ellipses. It was originally meant to have a copper dome. But they ended up with an iron dome, and they decided to go with an iron dome after the British burned it down. When the British burned it down, they decided to go with something that wouldn't burn. I think, what is it, 1812? When did they burn it down? They burned it down in 1814, so it was the War of 1812. Choo. I love arting with you guys in the mornings. This is the highlight of my day, I gotta tell you. Alright, that's enough pencil marks. I've got enough on there to confuse me. They must have been arsonists. When it burnt down, when it burnt down, it burned it all the way down to a shell. But there was a freak rainstorm and tornado in DC that stopped it. It stopped it burning. I don't know how many tornadoes they get in Washington, D.C. I can't imagine it's very many. So that had to be a shock to everybody. The statue on top of the building when they cast the statue on top of the building, they quibbled over money on how to cut it apart and how much money to charge for it. And the guy who agreed to do it backed out, said they wouldn't pay enough, since it said they wouldn't pay enough, and so he backed out. But one of his enslaved workers stepped up and finished it. Philip Reed stepped up and finished it, and by the time it was finished, the Emancipation Act in Washington, D.C. had taken effect, and he'd been freed. And so he was able to attend its grand opening as a freed man. much of the materials for the building were quarried by enslaved people. And it was hard work. It was hard enough work that the people that were having it done offered a half a pint of whiskey a day to the workers. But they don't really tell you whether the enslaved folks got the whiskey or whether it was just the men the handlers that got the money, who got the whiskey. I can't understand you at all. Hey, my religious viewers, good morning. Greg said they must have been arsonists. Pamela says, or providential. My mom and I are having difficulty communicating this morning. Our phone lines are not talking to each other very well. Yeah, there's an awful lot of pencil marks on there to navigate. I'm not counting the windows. Building has about 1.5 million square feet of space inside it, but it's an oddly shaped building. And part of the problem, and part of it, it's got that back part, and then it has the downstairs basement and the visitor center. It's only about 750 feet wide or 750 feet long by 35 feet wide. But like I said, it has the visitor center inside it, in the basement, and it has an odd shape to it. It's how you get the 1.5 million square feet of office space and the like. Done. I think I'm ready for paint. The dome wasn't supposed to be that big. It was supposed to be a small copper dome, but Thomas Walters never liked that design, so he had a drawing made up with this huge, tall dome on top of it, and he hung it in his office. And every time other Congress critters came in to visit him, they would see it, and they loved it. And so they were all convinced that that's what it should look like. And so when it came up for a vote, it didn't even go to committee. It just almost unanimously passed that this is what they would build. The dome has, there's actually two domes. There's an outer dome and an inner dome held together by trusses. And they used a crane operated by steam to pick it up and put it atop the building in the 1850s. 1860s. Like I said, the President Lincoln is the one that actually oversaw the finishing part of the dome. And during the Civil War, people wanted to stop construction on the Capitol building and the dome, and Lincoln said no, because that would signal that we're afraid we might not win or might not finish the war. We want people to be inspired. And so he had them go ahead and finish, even though they were in the middle of a civil war. I like learning about the history of stuff like this. I like hearing the stories about how they came about, what made them decide to add this feature or that feature. I just think that's interesting when you start looking at why they made the decisions that they made. You look at stuff all the time and you say, well, this is cool, but once you hear the story of how it happened, it's so much more interesting. And somebody once said, if history doesn't make you a little uncomfortable, then you're not studying history properly. Finding out that the men that worked on it were enslaved, knowing full well that the people that were wanting it done, at least half of them were dead set against slavery and were actively fighting against slavery at the exact same time that slavery was being used to construct the house they would eventually vote to make it illegal in. I do want a fritter. I didn't get a fritter yesterday, Rick. I went to the doctor yesterday. They gave me some. I'm a little loopy today. If you can't tell, I'm just a little loopy. But I went to the doctor yesterday instead of going to get a fritter, so I do want some of your fritter. Somehow I picked up some red there. I didn't really want some red there, but we'll make it work. Stabbed my brush right into the red paint. I blame the medication. Yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm going to blame the medication. I can go get a fritter today, I guess. Since I don't have to work today. Get to work. I don't get to work today. I don't know what happens to all of my mixed paint. I don't know why. Because I didn't use it all. It was all right there, and then all of a sudden it's gone. I think my pan has a leak in it. Okay. Shading is my favorite part. If you can't tell. That's the part that makes the whole thing take shape. Gives the whole thing dimension. Dimension, not dementia. All right, let me dry that a little, and we'll come back with some color. Yeah, I'm not sure the donut shop's going to be open on Memorial Day. We'll find out. Been attacked. Knocked everything off my shelf. All right, let's see. If you want something to appear white, add a little blue to it, right? But not too much blue. Too much blue and it will appear blue. So we're going to blue this up just a little bit, except right around the highlights. I'm going to leave just a few white highlights. One of the best exercises I ever tried was painting an egg. I don't know if you've ever tried to paint an egg, but you look at a white egg and you think it's white. That's all there is to it, and it's not that way. It's got blues and reds reflected in it. It has other shapes. It has other shadows in it, and so it's not a white egg when you try to paint it. The same is true for these white buildings. When you try to paint these white buildings, you have to take into account that the colors around it are reflecting into it. But if you really want to make it white, if you really want to make something look lighter, darken the background. Be sure and go over the shadows when you do. That separates the shadows from your building, or from your object rather, to make sure that your shadows look like they're not part of the building. Can't see anything with my hand in the way, can you? And that's why it's bad that I got the vermilion in that shadow right there of the building, because now that looks like it's not attached to the building. All right, let me dry this and then we can ink it. Pamela says vermilion. I guess you could always, my mom's in the chat room talking about how she's not able to talk to me and how she hates not being able to talk to me. I guess you could always type really loud. We went to the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Did we go Saturday? And they have the I don't remember if it was the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. We didn't get to see it. They have it on display there, but the line was too long, and you couldn't pre-purchase tickets. You didn't have to purchase tickets; it was free. But you couldn't get the tickets in advance because it was so packed. And so we weren't going to be able to see it because there were too many people already in line. Part of me is really upset that I didn't get to see it. Part of me believes that we would have done a National Treasure scene, like Nick Cage trying to run out of the building with the Declaration of Independence in our hands. But I kind of wish that I had seen it now. You just get essence of window over here. I find there are certain ways that I can make a straight line. And it's better if I just turn my book to make the straight line than it is if I try to make the straight line in the at the wrong angle. But even so, I'd have been better off with a ruler. Can't talk, Arting. Building has 540 rooms, 658 windows, 850 doorways. Can you imagine counting all of that? All right. She doesn't get so excited over cerulean. Pamela gets excited over vermilion, but she doesn't get so excited over cerulean, according to Rick. What is today? Today is the 25th of May. How many pages are left in this book? One, two, three. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we change books. Finish it Thursday, and then Friday we'll start with a new book. Cool beans. All right, so that is what mine looks like compared to the photograph. Let's see what it looks like from my perspective. There it is from my perspective. So that's what I did this morning. Tomorrow we have a bingo ball. Our bingo ball is number 130. That means it's a toy too big for an egg or a shell, or the too big for an egg or the canisters, so I have to put it on the shelf. But toy 130 is this really cool cricket. This would have been a really good one for today because I have all the time in the world to draw this today, but tomorrow I have to go to work, so we'll see if I can do this in 30 minutes. Crickets have been chirping around since before the dinosaurs. They fossilized, so you've got a good representation of crickets in the fossil record, just chirping away. And they chirp according to how warm or cool they are. That changes the frequency of their chirping. and so you can kind of put together a thermometer and get a good indication of how hot or cold it is outside based on how fast they are chirping. So we'll talk about that and more fun cricket facts tomorrow morning while I sketch this little chirper at 5:30 a.m. So you may want to set your notification bell for that. My wife gets creeped out knowing I have that. She does not like the bugs. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I look forward to this every day when I get to art with my besties. I literally run down the stairs. Well, today I hobbled down the stairs, but I usually just run down the stairs so I can be here. It is truly the highlight of my day. Pamela, Rick, thank you so much for joining me. Mom, Dad, thank you so much for your help. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Oh, and my religious views and Joe stopped by earlier today, and then my religious views over on the vertical. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel, and we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because when they see me dancing, I'll know that I won't get cut off mid-sentence. It means the lag has caught up with the stream. It gives you a chance to click the clicky thingies this way if you're on the horizontal, or this way if you're on the vertical. It gives everybody a chance to say hello and goodbye, ask any questions they may have of each other. Pamela, I hope you have a great day also. Thank you so much for the well wishes. I really do appreciate it. But the most important part about this is that I don't get cut off mid-sentence.